Welcome to this unforgettable story. This is not just a story about music. This is a story about a boy who became a king, but lost himself in the process. A story about dreams, fame, control, loneliness, love, addiction, and pain. A story that will show you the price of becoming someone the world worships, but no one really understands. His voice changed the world. His dance moves shocked generations. His songs made people cry, fall in love, scream, and faint. He had everything: money, fame, power, success, fans, women, clothes, cars, mansions. But inside, he was still that shy, quiet boy from Mississippi, searching for peace, searching for love, searching for someone who would understand his silence. This is not a fake story. This is not fiction. This is the real, raw, emotional life of Elvis Presley, the most iconic music star in history. And this story is also great for your English. Because while you listen, you will learn how to understand stories, how to follow details, and how to improve your vocabulary naturally. So if you care about improving your English, listening to life-changing stories, and watching videos that make you feel something real, then hit the subscribe button now and share this video with someone who loves music, stories, or English. This is just the beginning, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Let's begin from the very first second of his life. Part 1. The Poor Boy Who Didn't Cry. Let's go back to the dark winter night of January 8, 1935, in a tiny wooden house in a poor town called Tupelo in Mississippi, USA. A woman named Gladys Presley was in deep pain. She was giving birth to twins. Her husband, Vernon Presley, stood outside in the cold, nervous, broke, and scared. They had no money, no future, and no idea what life would bring. First, the doctor delivered a baby boy. But something was wrong. He was stillborn. The baby didn't breathe, didn't cry, didn't move. They named him Jesse Garin Presley. He died the moment he was born. Then, just minutes later, the second twin was born. And this baby cried so loud, the neighbors could hear it outside. That baby was Elvis Aaron Presley. From the very beginning, Elvis was marked by loss. He entered the world with a tragedy. His twin brother dead, his mother heartbroken, and his father terrified of what would happen next. He would grow up as an only child, but always feel like half of him was missing. He later said, "My brother is with me all the time. I always feel like he's there." This pain, the pain of being born next to death, would shape his entire life. Elvis's family was very poor. I don't mean simple poor, I mean dirt poor. They lived in a 2-room wooden house with no electricity, no running water, no comfort. Vernon worked small jobs, farming, cleaning, anything he could find. Gladys worked in a laundry. Sometimes they didn't have enough food. Sometimes they couldn't pay rent. Sometimes they had to beg relatives to survive. But Elvis had one thing that kept him alive: his mother's love. Gladys was his world. She would hold him close, sing to him, protect him from everything. She called him my baby, even when he was a grown man. They were more than mother and son. They were soulmates, connected by pain, fear, and survival. Elvis grew up in a world where everything was a struggle. But he also grew up with music in the air. Tupelo was a small southern town, and in the South, music was everywhere. Elvis listened to gospel music at church, voices crying out in pain and hope. He heard blues music on the street, played by poor black musicians, singing about life, loss, and love. He heard country music on the radio, the sound of broken hearts and hard lives. Even as a child, he was fascinated. He would sit and watch singers with wide eyes. He would move his feet, tap his fingers, and feel every beat in his bones. When he was just 10 years old, he entered a singing contest at the local fair. He wore a white shirt and stood on a box to reach the microphone. He sang Old Shep, a sad song about a boy losing his dog. When he finished, the crowd was silent. Then they clapped. He didn't win first place, but something was born inside him that day. A belief. Maybe I can sing. In 1946, when Elvis turned 11, he wanted a rifle for his birthday. But Gladys said no. Instead, she bought him a guitar, a cheap one from the local store. Elvis didn't look excited. He didn't even know how to play. But that moment, a small guitar in the hands of a poor boy, would change the world. He learned slowly, taught himself, watched others, listened, practiced. He would sit alone for hours, strumming the same chords, singing softly, imagining he was on stage. His classmates thought he was weird. They made fun of his clothes, his shy nature, his dream of being a singer. But Elvis didn't care. He had music, and that was all he needed. In 1948, when Elvis was 13, the Presleys had to move. They had no money, no future, and too many problems in Tupelo. So they packed everything and moved to Memphis, Tennessee, a city full of hope, but also full of struggle. They lived in public housing, apartments for poor families. Vernon still worked random jobs. Gladys still cried at night. But Elvis kept playing his guitar, kept listening to music, kept dreaming of something bigger. He would go to black churches to hear powerful gospel choirs. He would walk down Beale Street, watching blues musicians play live. He would absorb everything: rhythm, sound, soul, fire. Elvis wasn't copying. He was becoming something new, something the world had never seen before. The year was 1953. Elvis was 18 years old. A shy boy with messy blonde-brown hair, soft eyes, and a deep voice that carried something the world had never heard before. But no one knew it yet. Not his friends, not his parents, not even him. He was just Elvis, a truck driver who sang in the mirror, dreamed in silence, and still lived with his mom and dad in a small apartment in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's pause for a moment. Before fame, before screaming fans, before glitter and gold, Elvis had a regular job. After finishing Humes High School, he started working for Crown Electric Company, driving a truck that delivered electrical supplies. He wore a white shirt, blue jeans, and heavy boots. He earned just $1 an hour. But even as he drove through the streets of Memphis, his mind was somewhere else. He hummed songs while driving. He dreamed of standing on stage, holding a microphone, hearing people clap. He didn't tell anyone that dream, not his co-workers, not even his parents, because people laughed at dreamers like him. They said, "You? A singer? Come on, boy, be serious." But Elvis didn't stop dreaming. He kept practicing guitar after work, sitting on the bed with his mother beside him, encouraging him softly. One hot July afternoon in 1953, Elvis walked down Union Avenue and stopped in front of a small building. It wasn't big. It wasn't shiny. It was a tiny studio called Sun Records, owned by a man named Sam Phillips. A man who had one dream. If I could find a white man who could sing with the soul of a black man, I could make $1 billion. At that time, the world was divided by color. Black music, blues, gospel, soul was powerful, but only played in black neighborhoods. White audiences had country and pop. Clean, polite, emotionless. No one had ever mixed the two. Until that day. Elvis walked into Sun Records carrying his guitar, wearing a pink shirt and white trousers. Simple, but neat. He was nervous, sweating, heart pounding. He looked around and saw microphones, wires, and instruments, all new to him. A lady at the front desk looked up. Her name was Marian Keisker, the studio secretary and assistant to Sam Phillips. She asked, "What can I do for you, young man?" Elvis swallowed and said quietly, I want to make a record. For my mother. It was half true. He wanted to surprise his mom, yes. But deep down, he wanted someone to hear him. Marian smiled. She told him the price, $3.98, to record 2 songs on an acetate disc. Elvis nodded nervously and stepped into the small recording room. The room smelled of wood, dust, and sweat. The air was hot. The walls were covered in soundproof panels. A single microphone stood in the middle. Elvis placed his guitar strap over his shoulder, took a deep breath, and began to sing. The first song was My Happiness. It was a soft, romantic song that he had learned from a record by the Ink Spots. He sang with tenderness, emotion, and innocence. Then he sang, That's When Your Heartaches Begin. His voice was deep and warm. It wasn't perfect, but it had soul. Something inside it felt real, honest, alive. Marian Keisker listened from the control room, her eyes wide. When he finished, she wrote on the tape box, Good ballad singer. Hold, she didn't know it then, but that one note would become the seed of history. Elvis paid the $3.98, took his record, thanked her shyly, and walked out the door, back to his life as a truck driver. But Marian couldn't forget him. She kept that recording on her desk for months. A year later, June 1954, something unexpected happened. Sam Phillips, the owner of Sun Records, was searching for a new voice. He told Marian, Do you remember that boy? The one who sounded a bit different? Marian said, Elvis Presley. Sam said, Yes. Get him in here. She called Elvis. When he picked up, she said, Elvis, this is Marian Keisker from Sun Records. Sam Phillips would like you to come by the studio. Elvis's heart started racing. He hung up and ran to his parents. Mom, they want me back at the studio. Gladys smiled and said, See, baby, I told you something good will happen. He didn't sleep that night. He kept imagining what it would be like to record again. Maybe this time for real. It was a hot summer night in Memphis. The kind of night when the air sticks to your skin and everything feels alive. Elvis walked into Sun's studio with his guitar. 2 other musicians were already there. Scotty Moore on guitar, Bill Black on bass. They didn't know Elvis. They thought he was just another nervous kid with big dreams. Sam Phillips asked them to warm up and try a few songs. They played slow ballads, country tunes. Nothing worked. After hours, Sam was getting bored. Elvis was sweating, frustrated. It was past midnight, and they were ready to go home. And then, it happened. Elvis picked up his guitar, started strumming a fast, funny rhythm, and began to sing That's All Right, Mama, a song originally sung by black blues singer Arthur Big Boy Crudup. But Elvis didn't copy it. He changed it. He made it his own. He added energy, laughter, rhythm, and movement. Scotty and Bill jumped in, one on the electric guitar, the other on the bass. They started jamming, not thinking, just feeling. Sam Phillips, who had left the control room for a smoke, ran back in. He shouted, "What are you doing?" Elvis froze, thinking he was in trouble. But Sam smiled wide and said, "Do it again. Whatever you're doing, do it again." They recorded it again. Same energy, same joy, same magic. The result was electric. It wasn't blues. It wasn't country. It wasn't gospel. It was something brand new. That night, rock and roll was born. 2 days later, on July 8, 1954, a Memphis DJ named Dewey Phillips, no relation to Sam, played "That's All Right" on his radio show, Red Hot and Blue. Within minutes, the phone lines exploded. People were calling, asking, "Who is that? Who's singing this song?" Listeners couldn't tell if the singer was black or white. They just knew the music felt alive. Dewey played the song 14 times in one night. He then called Elvis and said, "Come down to the station, kid. People are going crazy." Elvis rushed over, nervous and shaking. He sat down for his first radio interview ever. Dewey asked him questions live, like, "Where are you from? Which school did you go to?" He wanted listeners to know. Elvis Presley was white. Because at that time, music was still separated by race, and this kind of sound was shocking. Elvis didn't understand what the big deal was. He just wanted to sing. But what he didn't know was that in that one night, he had opened a new chapter in music history. After "That's All Right," Sun Records released another single, "Blue Moon of Kentucky." Both songs exploded in Memphis and nearby states. Elvis started performing live, wearing flashy clothes, shaking his leg, moving his hips. And people went wild. Women screamed. Men stared. Parents were shocked. Nobody had ever seen someone perform like this before. He didn't plan it. It just came naturally. A mix of shyness, excitement, and rhythm. And that wild energy became his signature. Soon, Elvis Presley was not just a name. He was a sensation. Part 2. The explosion of Elvis Presley. When the world met the king. After the success of "That's All Right" and "Blue Moon of Kentucky" in 1954, Elvis was no longer just a shy boy with a guitar. He was becoming something new. In Memphis, people were already treating him like a star. He was invited to local shows. Girls screamed his name. Boys copied his hairstyle. But Elvis wasn't sure what to do next. He still lived in a small apartment with his parents. He still worked part-time. He still felt like an outsider, different, strange, unsure of himself. But the truth was, the whole country was about to find him. And when they did, they would never let him go. From late 1954 to early 1955, Elvis recorded several more songs with Sun Records. "Good Rockin' Tonight," "Baby Let's Play House," "Mystery Train." Each song had a mix of blues, country, rockabilly, and something new. His unique voice, his energy, his soul. He was doing something nobody else was doing. He wasn't trying to sound black or white. He was just being Elvis. His music made people dance, sweat, and scream. It also made some people angry. Because back then, music was not supposed to cross lines. And Elvis was destroying those lines. With his voice, his moves, and his freedom. Elvis started traveling to nearby towns with his band. They performed on small stages, school gyms, radio events, truck stops. At first, the crowds were quiet. They didn't know what to expect. Elvis would walk on stage wearing bright clothes, pink jackets, shiny shoes, slicked hair. Then he would start singing. And something would happen. His body would move, his legs would shake, his hips would swing. He didn't plan it. It was just how he felt the music. And the girls went crazy. They screamed, they cried, they fainted. They reached for his shirt, his hair, his hands. Some tried to climb the stage just to touch him. Elvis didn't understand it. He said to his bandmate once, "I don't know what I'm doing. I just sing." But whatever it was working. He was creating a new kind of energy, dangerous, electric, alive. And soon, the music industry noticed. In late 1955, a man appeared. His name was Colonel Tom Parker. He wasn't really a colonel. He wasn't even American. He was a Dutch immigrant named Andreas van Kuijk, who had changed his name and made his own legend. But he was smart, very smart. He had managed country stars before, and he understood business, promotion, control. When he saw Elvis perform, he knew instantly. This boy is gold, but he needs me to become a star. He approached Elvis and his parents, promising fame, money, stability. Gladys didn't trust him at first. She had a bad feeling. But Vernon liked the idea of financial security. Eventually, they signed with him. Colonel Parker became Elvis's manager, and soon, his master. Colonel Parker's first move was to sell Elvis's contract from Sun Records to RCA Victor, a big national label. The deal was massive. $35,000 in 1955, which is more than $400,000 today, the highest amount ever paid for a new artist. Elvis was now officially a national artist. RCA gave him a better studio, more musicians, more radio, and more distribution. They also started to build his image: the hair, the clothes, the posters, the album covers. They were turning Elvis into a brand. In January 1956, Elvis recorded his first song with RCA, Heartbreak Hotel. A song about loneliness, suicide, pain, and isolation. Not a happy song, not a safe song. But when it hit the radio, it exploded. Heartbreak Hotel went to #1 on the Billboard charts. Suddenly, the name Elvis Presley was everywhere. He was on TV, on magazines, on posters. People couldn't stop talking about him. Have you seen that boy Elvis? Did you see how he moves? He's dangerous. He's brilliant. He's crazy. Everyone had an opinion, but no one could ignore him. Because Elvis wasn't just a singer. He was a movement. He was the voice of the young, the sound of rebellion, the face of freedom. In March 1956, Elvis appeared on national television for the first time. The show was Stage Show, hosted by the Dorsey brothers. Then came the Milton Berle Show, the Steve Allen Show, and finally, the Ed Sullivan Show, the most famous stage in America. But here's the twist. When Elvis performed, the TV cameras only showed him from the waist up. Why? Because of his hips. When Elvis danced, he moved his body like nobody else. He shook his legs, he rolled his hips, he danced with fire, and it scared people. Some said it was too sexual, too wild, too dangerous. Religious leaders said he was corrupting the youth. Newspapers called him Elvis the Pelvis. But guess what? The more they criticized him, the more people loved him. His fame grew bigger and bigger because he represented something new: freedom. In just 1 year, from 1955 to 1956, Elvis had gone from a poor truck driver to the most famous young man in America. He was earning more than $50,000 a month. He bought his first mansion, Graceland, in Memphis. He gifted his mother a pink Cadillac. He wore custom-made clothes, sunglasses, rings. He had guards, agents, press teams. But inside, he was still that same boy who had lost his twin. Still shy, still searching, still not sure how to handle the storm. Fame made him powerful, but it also made him lonely. Colonel Parker saw another opportunity: Hollywood. In 1956, Elvis made his first movie, Love Me Tender. It was a romantic drama set in the Civil War, and Elvis played the younger brother, sweet, soft, tragic. The movie made millions. More films followed, Jailhouse Rock, Loving You, King Creole. Elvis wasn't just a singer now, he was a movie star, and Parker controlled everything, the scripts, the money, the image. Elvis said yes to everything, trying to make everyone happy. But slowly, he started losing control of his own life. It was December 1957. Elvis was 22 years old. He had millions of fans, money, houses, cars, gold records, and international fame. He was also tired of performing, tired of doing movie after movie, tired of people trying to control him, especially Colonel Tom Parker, who saw Elvis as a product, not a person. Elvis was starting to feel like a prisoner in his own fame. And then, the letter arrived, a brown envelope from the United States government. Inside was a notice. You have been drafted to serve in the U.S. Army. Elvis was being called to serve as a soldier, just like every other American man at that time. His fans were shocked. Some cried, some begged the government to cancel it. But Elvis said, "If I'm called, I'll go. I don't want to be treated differently. I'm just like anyone else." He didn't fight it. He accepted it. But deep inside, he was terrified, not of war, but of what would happen to his career, his freedom, and most of all, his mother. Before we continue, you must understand this. Elvis's mother, Gladys Love Presley, was not just his mom. She was his best friend, his heart, his protector, his soulmate. They had survived poverty together. They had cried together. They had slept in the same bed during hard winters. They had laughed, prayed, and believed in each other. Elvis once said, "My mother is the only person I ever really loved." When he became famous, he didn't move away from her. He bought her a pink Cadillac. He took her on tours. He called her every night. He even brought her on movie sets. Gladys, on the other hand, was proud, but afraid. She saw how fame was changing her boy. She saw the pressure, the drugs, the fake people, the loneliness, and it broke her heart. She started drinking. She became ill. And when she heard that her baby was going to the army, she couldn't take it. In August 1958, just days before he was supposed to leave for full-time army duty, Gladys Presley was taken to the hospital. Her liver was failing. She was weak. Her body was tired. She was only 46 years old. Elvis rushed to the hospital and sat by her bed. He held her hand. He cried. He kept whispering, "Please don't leave me, Mama, please." But on August 14th, 1958, at 2 a.m., Gladys Love Presley died, and Elvis fell apart. He screamed. He cried uncontrollably. He kissed her over and over again. He collapsed on the hospital floor. At her funeral, he sobbed like a broken child, not like a star. He said, "She was my everything. Everything I have is gone." Even the fans, the media, and the soldiers gave him space. Because this wasn't a performance. This was real pain. And from that day forward, Elvis would never be the same. In March 1958, Elvis officially entered the U.S. Army. He reported to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, and became Private Elvis Presley. No glitter, no fans, no special treatment, at least not on the surface. He wore a green uniform. He cut his famous hair. He cleaned toilets, carried weapons, followed orders. The media called it, "The King Goes to Boot Camp." But Elvis didn't complain. He said, "This is a duty I'll do with all my heart." He served with honor. He trained hard. He did what every other soldier did. In October 1958, Elvis was sent to Friedberg, Germany as part of a NATO operation. He lived in a rented house with his father Vernon and his grandmother. Every day he trained. At night, he listened to records, played music, and tried to heal from his mother's death. And then, one evening at a private party, a beautiful 14-year-old girl walked in. Her name was Priscilla Beaulieu. She was the daughter of an American Air Force officer living in Germany. Elvis was 24. Priscilla was 14. Their age difference raised eyebrows. But in the 1950s, this kind of relationship was not as controversial as it would be today. Priscilla said, "He was polite, respectful, and never made me feel uncomfortable." Elvis was instantly drawn to her. Not just her looks, but her softness, her innocence, her calm nature. He was still grieving, still broken, and Priscilla brought him peace. They started spending time together, talking for hours, watching movies, listening to records. He shared his sadness. She listened. He played music for her. She smiled. He called her baby and held her hand like she was a secret he wanted to protect. In March 1960, after 2 years of military service, Elvis left the Army and returned to America. He was now 25 years old, and everything had changed. His mother was gone. His soul was still aching, and the music world had moved forward. New artists were rising. Music was changing. The audience was waiting to see if Elvis still had the magic. And Elvis? He was ready to try. But he wasn't the same boy anymore. He was now a man with pain behind his eyes. The comeback begins. Are You Lonesome Tonight? His first recording after returning was Stuck on You, a hit. Then came It's Now or Never. Are You Lonesome Tonight? These songs weren't wild rock and roll. They were softer, sadder, more emotional. Because now, Elvis was singing with his pain. People loved it. His voice had matured. His heart had depth. His soul was on fire. After leaving Germany, Elvis couldn't forget Priscilla. They wrote letters, made phone calls, and in 1963, when she was 17, Priscilla moved to Graceland to live with him, with her parents' permission. Elvis promised to respect her. He gave her her own room. He wanted her to finish school, stay private, and grow at her own pace. It was a strange relationship, full of love, control, confusion, and quiet dreams. But for Elvis, Priscilla was his safe place, the one person who reminded him of his mother's gentleness. In the early 1960s, Colonel Parker pushed Elvis to make more and more movies. He made Blue Hawaii, G.I. Blues, Girls, 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 Viva Las Vegas. The movies were light, fun, colorful, full of songs, dancing, beaches, and romance. But they were also repetitive and shallow. Elvis didn't like most of them. He wanted to do serious roles like Marlon Brando or James Dean. But Parker said, "The money is in the musicals. The fans love them. Stick to the formula." And Elvis obeyed. He made over 30 films, but very few he truly loved. Slowly, he started losing his passion. The boy who once shook the world with "That's All Right" was now singing cheesy songs in plastic movie sets. And deep inside, he felt like he was dying creatively. It was May 1st, 1967. Las Vegas was shining under the morning sun. But inside the Aladdin Hotel, the lights were focused on one couple. Elvis Presley, 32 years old. Priscilla Beaulieu, 21 years old. After years of love, long-distance letters, private moments, and a growing bond that started in Germany, Elvis finally said, "Let's get married." The wedding was private and short. Only close friends, a few reporters, and Colonel Parker were there. Priscilla wore a long white gown with dark eyeliner and soft curls. Elvis wore a black tuxedo, slick hair, and nervous charm. They looked perfect. But something was already strange. Many said the wedding was arranged more for publicity than love. Some believed Colonel Parker forced it to protect Elvis's image. Others said Elvis wasn't ready, but married her because he felt he should. Still, that morning they smiled, they kissed, they cut the cake, and the world called them royalty. On February 1st, 1968, just 9 months after the wedding, Priscilla gave birth to Lisa Marie Presley. She was Elvis's only child, and the moment he saw her, he cried. He held her close and whispered, "You are my little girl. I'll protect you forever." For a moment, Elvis found peace. His world, filled with pressure, money, and noise, suddenly had a quiet purpose. He started spending more time at home, singing to Lisa Marie, watching her sleep, kissing her tiny fingers. But peace doesn't last long in the world of fame. And soon, the pressure to perform, to be Elvis, to stay on top, came crashing back. For most of the early 1960s, Elvis had been stuck in Hollywood contracts, making boring musicals. His fans were losing interest. The Beatles had taken over. Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, and the Rolling Stones were now the voice of the youth. People were asking, "Is Elvis finished?" Even Elvis asked himself, "Do I still have it? Or am I just a memory?" Then came the idea of a TV special, a one-night show, a chance to remind the world who he really was, to strip away the glitter, the fake movie songs, the soft ballads, and bring back the fire. Elvis agreed. On December 3rd, 1968, millions of Americans turned on their TVs. And what they saw was magic. Elvis, in a tight black leather suit, holding a guitar, sitting in a circle with his old band, sweating, laughing, shouting, dancing. He sang Heartbreak Hotel, Jailhouse Rock, One Night, If I Can Dream. He didn't lip sync. He didn't act. He performed with soul. Every note came from deep pain. Every smile came from his broken heart. Every movement screamed, "I'm not finished." "I am still the king," critics called it. The greatest comeback in music history. The audience cried. Old fans returned. New fans were born. And Elvis? He was reborn. For the first time in years. He felt alive again. After the comeback special, Elvis returned to the studio. In 1969, he recorded songs that brought new fire. Suspicious Minds, a song about love, jealousy, and mistrust. In the Ghetto, a song about poverty and broken dreams. Kentucky Rain, emotional and cinematic. These weren't just hits. They were personal. They were true. They were filled with the pain and poetry of a man who had lost himself and was trying to come back. Elvis told his band, "I don't want fake music anymore. I want to feel what I sing," and people felt it too. In 1969, Elvis signed a contract to perform at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. He would do 2 shows a night, 7 days a week, for months. At first, it was thrilling. The crowd screamed. He wore flashy jumpsuits. He added karate moves to his dance. He sang with fire. But over time, it became a trap. The same hotel, the same songs, the same schedule. Elvis started taking pills, to sleep, to wake up, to calm down, to go on stage. Uppers, downers, painkillers, sedatives. It began slowly. But then it became a lifestyle. He said, "I just need something to get through the day." But that something was destroying him inside. At home, things were also changing. Priscilla had been with Elvis since she was a teenager. She loved him. But now she felt like a stranger in her own house. Elvis was distant. He was always working. He was taking pills. He had started flirting with other women. Priscilla said, "I felt like I was married to a ghost. He was there, but not with me." They started arguing more, spending less time together, living in different rooms. Elvis still loved her, but he didn't know how to be a husband. He only knew how to be Elvis Presley, the superstar, the king, the performer. In 1972, after 5 years of marriage, Priscilla left. They officially divorced in 1973. Elvis cried. He held her hand in court. He didn't fight, because deep inside, he knew. He had already lost her long before the papers were signed. After the divorce, Elvis was more alone than ever. Lisa Marie, his daughter, stayed with Priscilla, but visited Graceland often. Elvis loved her deeply. He gave her everything: toys, ponies, cars, jewelry. But even Lisa could feel something was wrong. Elvis was getting heavier, sleepier, slower. He was surrounded by bodyguards, assistants, and yes men, people who said yes to everything he asked. But no one said, "Elvis, stop." He lived like a prisoner in a golden cage, full of diamonds, but starving for peace. Part 3. The Final Curtain. The King Who Died Alone. Elvis Presley, once the most beautiful man in the world, was now a shadow of himself. He was only in his late 30s, but he looked twice his age. His face was bloated. His eyes were often half open. His voice was tired but still golden. His movements were slower, his memory weaker. He was addicted to prescription drugs, given legally by doctors but destroying his body. But he still performed. He still went on stage. Why? Because he had to pay for his lifestyle, to satisfy Colonel Parker's endless contracts, to stay relevant. But every show was harder. He had to be helped up the stairs. He sometimes forgot lyrics. He sweated so much his jumpsuit became soaked. But when he sang, people still cried, because no matter how weak his body became, his voice was still a gift from God. Elvis didn't take drugs to party. He took drugs to survive. To sleep, he took sleeping pills. To wake up, he took stimulants. To perform, he took painkillers. To relax, he took sedatives. To feel normal, he took everything. He had a private doctor named Dr. George Nicopolis, also known as Dr. Nick. Dr. Nick gave him thousands of pills every year. In 1977 alone, Elvis was prescribed over 10,000 doses of medications. Nobody stopped him, because he was Elvis. And when a man is that big, people are afraid to say no. After Priscilla, Elvis tried to find love again. He dated Linda Thompson, a kind woman who tried to help him stay healthy. He later dated Ginger Alden, a beauty queen who became his last girlfriend. But Elvis couldn't give his heart fully. He was still in love with the memory of Priscilla, and he was still in pain from losing his mother. Every woman in his life said the same thing. He was kind, but deeply sad. He would smile on the outside, but inside, he was broken. He wanted to be loved, but he didn't know how to stay. Elvis rarely left his home, Graceland in Memphis. He lived like a king in a castle, but it wasn't golden. It was quiet, dark, and full of memories. He watched TV late into the night. He read spiritual books, searching for meaning. He played the piano alone, singing softly to himself. He ordered mountains of food, cheeseburgers, fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches, ice cream. He didn't exercise. He didn't sleep well. He didn't laugh like before. Sometimes he would stay in his room for days, just sitting, just thinking, just hurting. He told his friends, "I'm so tired, man. So tired." He wasn't talking about his body. He was talking about his soul. Elvis continued to tour until the very end. Even in 1977, the year he died, he performed more than 50 shows. But something had changed. He looked sick. He was overweight, over 350 pounds. His skin was pale. He sometimes forgot what city he was in. Fans noticed. They were shocked. Some people said, "He's finished. He should stop. He's embarrassing himself." But others, they cried, because when he sang, "You were always on my mind. My way, unchained melody." They heard not just a song, but a man dying while trying to give his soul away. It was a hot summer morning in Memphis. Elvis had just returned home to Graceland after another late-night reading session. He had taken a large number of pills. At 2:30 a.m., he told Ginger Alden, "I'm going to the bathroom. I won't be long." He went into the bathroom and never came out. Hours later, Ginger found him unconscious, lying on the floor. She screamed. The staff ran in. They called the ambulance. They tried CPR, but it was too late. At 3:30 p.m., Elvis Aaron Presley was pronounced dead at the age of 42. The news spread like wildfire. Elvis is dead. The king is gone. The world has lost a legend. People fainted, cried, screamed, prayed. Radio stations played his songs for days. TV channels stopped everything to show tributes. Fans flew to Graceland from all over the world. Elvis's funeral was held 2 days later. Tens of thousands stood in the burning heat, waiting to walk past his open casket. He was dressed in a white suit, holding a Bible, lying peacefully. Many said, "He finally looks free." Elvis was buried at Forest Hill Cemetery, but after a threat to steal his body, he was moved to Graceland next to his mother Gladys. They are together now, the boy and the woman who loved him more than anything. Visitors from all over the world still walk to his grave. Some leave flowers. Some cry. Some just stand silently and whisper, "Thank you, Elvis is gone." But he is everywhere. His music still sells millions of records. His home, Graceland, is one of the most visited houses in America. His face is printed on T-shirts, mugs, posters. His voice is studied by singers. His life is remembered in movies, books, museums. His pain is felt by every artist who ever felt trapped by fame. But most of all, he lives in the hearts of people. Because Elvis wasn't just a star. He was a boy who wanted to sing for his mother. He was a man who wanted to be loved. He was a king who gave everything and died trying to find peace. Elvis's health collapsed due to drugs, pressure, loneliness, and pain. His final years were filled with shows, pills, silence, and suffering. He died on August 16, 1977, alone in Graceland. His funeral was massive. His death shocked the entire world. But his legacy became even stronger after death, because his story is real, painful, beautiful, and unforgettable. Elvis Aaron Presley started as a poor boy with a guitar singing for his mother. He became the most famous voice in the world. He gave the world rock and roll, soul, style, and emotion. But behind the fame was a man who just wanted love, peace, and quiet. His story is a lesson. That fame doesn't heal pain. That money can't buy happiness. That dreams come with a cost. And that even a king can feel empty inside. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to this channel. More powerful stories are coming. Share this video with someone who needs to understand the truth about life, love, and loss. And remember, if you're learning English, This is the best way to do it. Through real emotions, real stories, and real language that makes you feel. Elvis Presley, 1935 to 1977. He didn't die. He just left the building. Long live the king.